Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Crohn's and Colitis Canada's Valentine's Date Night. We are so honored that you have chosen to spend your Valentine's Day with us. I hope that you all have your package of wine and charcuterie there in front of you, and you've maybe even snuck a few bites already. I know that I have. My name is Danielle. I'm the development coordinator for the province of Alberta, and I'm all dressed up here tonight for you to play host. I myself was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis back in 2011 and have been actively managing my disease since. I'm incredibly proud and honored to be a part of Crohn's and Colitis Canada, who makes such a great impact on a huge number of Canadians. A few housekeeping notes. Usually I would take this time to tell you where the bathrooms are, fire exits, things like that. But I assume that you know where those are since you're at home. If not, then I recommend that you take a few moments to familiarize yourself with the place. Take a look around, check things out. It's very nice. You've done a great job. Should you need a few extra moments at any time throughout the evening, you can't get the wine open, you want to change into your PJs, maybe you're having an attack of the Crohn's. The beautiful thing about this YouTube stream is that you can pause us and restart whenever you're ready. This button right down here, this will pause your stream for you. You can also rewind if you've missed something riveting that was said about those tannins of the red, or if you want to re-listen to that great song we just heard. I want to take a quick moment to say some thanks. First off, thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. Your ticket purchase and donations made are so incredibly important to us. We could not continue to do the good work that we do without all of you. I want to thank our sponsor, Regal Ideas, for their support tonight. Thank you to YYC Food Trucks and Boxed YEG for these amazing charcuterie boxes. Aren't these things beautiful? I'm so excited to dive in. Thank you to Co-op Wine and Spirits, our wine vendor for tonight. We look forward to welcoming Katherine from Co-op shortly to walk us through our wine tasting. Now, I would like to say a warm welcome to Crohn's and Colitis Canada's CEO, Susan Cowan.
Hello, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I want to welcome you to our Valentine's Date Night event. We are delighted to have you with us this evening. I am Sue Cowan, CEO of Crohn's and Colitis Canada. A little about me. I became involved with the organization in 2017 when our son was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I joined the board in 2018. The West is best. I can say that because I used to live in Calgary with my family. Crohn's and Colitis Canada is driven to find the cures for Crohn's and colitis and to improve the lives of people living with these diseases. Your generosity allows us to deliver continued excellence in this mission. The outreach to us for support and guidance this year was unprecedented. We are proud that we were able to deliver the help that was needed through our many programs. We hosted our 21st COVID webinar to our IBD community last week. We had the largest number of registrants to date and participation from around the world. We expect this demand will continue through 2021. Last year, with your generous support, we were able to continue to fund critical research. Along with our existing research projects, we funded 5 new initiatives totaling over $1.2 million. We are currently funding 4 specific research projects in Alberta. Providing access and care through centers of excellence brings together leading IBD centers to collectively advance best practices. The PACE teams in Alberta are addressing the gap in standardized care for IBD patients. It is because of you we are able to deliver on these programs. We would like to thank our sponsors for tonight and of course you for participating. Thank you so much for your generosity and support. We hope you have a really fun evening.
Thank you so much, Sue. To set the stage for tonight, we're going to get started with some jazz music first. Then we will go into our first wine tasting, where we will be learning about and tasting our white wine. Then we will enjoy some more music while you get to enjoy and discuss your white wine together. Following that, we will be led through our red wine tasting and end off the evening with some more music. Don't hesitate to open up and enjoy some of your wine now. Just make sure that you save some for the tasting. As you know, we also have our online auction running tonight until 8:30 p.m. at the end of the event. So be sure to sign in and bid on some of the amazing items that we have. You can find that auction at the link in the comments below. Your band for the evening is the Redline Trio. Formed in the distant reaches of a secret hideaway, the Redline Trio brings to life an attitude of a bygone era with a modern perspective. Jeff, Steve, and Mark bring together a beautiful juxtaposition of tradition and modern trends in jazz music with the drum, bass, and sax combination. So sit back, cuddle with your Valentine, drink some wine, and enjoy. Take it away, boys.
Thank you very much. That was a tune called Like Someone in Love. You're listening to Steve Shepard on the bass, Jeff Salima on the drums. My name is Mark DeYoung. We're the Redline Trio. We're going to continue with a composition by our drummer, Mr. Jeff Salima. This is a tune called Captain Trips. tune by the great late Dexter Gordon. This is a tune called Cheesecake.
Thank you, Redline Trio. That was fantastic. Hopefully you still have some white wine left. It's time for some professional wine tasting. I'd like to welcome Katherine, head sommelier from Co-op Wine and Spirits in Calgary. She has hand-selected these wonderful wines from romantic Italy for you and will guide you through your wine tasting tonight. Over to you, Katherine.
Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. As you have just heard, my name is Katherine, and I work with Co-op Wine Spirits Beer as a sommelier. Now you see, sommelier is just the French name for a wine expert. And it means that I've dedicated all of my time and efforts to learning everything there is to know about wine. And I'm so lucky because tonight I get to share all of that knowledge with you. And it's gonna be all about a theme that I'm so enthusiastic about, not to mention a very suiting theme for Valentine's Day. We're gonna be learning about romantic Italy. And I just love this topic because I truly can't think of a more romantic place than Italy. I mean, sure, Paris, the city of love, very romantic. But Italy is romantic from the tip of its boot all the way up to the top. Everything from the dramatic coastlines of Sicily and Puglia up to the rolling hills as far as your eyes can see in Tuscany. And then at the very top, you're graced with beautiful lakes and picturesque Alp mountains surrounding them. So I don't know about you, but again, I just can't think of anywhere else that is more romantic. Without further ado, let's get to the best part of this tasting, and that's gonna be the wine. Tonight, the first bottle I'm gonna get you to open is Santa Margherita, their Pinot Grigio. This is the first wine because it's important when tasting wine to start with the lightest and work your way heavier and heavier, just so that you don't lose any of the delicate flavors in the lighter styles of wine. Now, there are some details we have to go over, and those details are how to properly taste wine. You see, wine is such a complex topic that it can be hard to really break it down and simplify it. But I have done just that for you, and I have called it the 3 snooty steps of wine. It's a little bit of a joke because wine doesn't have to be snooty. It can be sometimes, but it can certainly be a lot more fun the less snooty it is. So those 3 important steps for tasting wine is going to be to swirl, to sniff, and then to sip. So pour yourself a glass of that Pinot Grigio, and we're going to start on this first step, which is swirling wine. I personally have a lot of practice. I'm quite good at it, though it is a little bit difficult if you're not used to it. So putting it down on a table surface and swirling it that way can be much easier. Now, the reason we're swirling our wine is there's actually a few different reasons. One of the big reasons is that swirling the wine helps add oxygen into the wine. And when you add oxygen in wine, you start creating and developing and bringing out the flavors of the wine. It's a beautiful chemical reaction that results in all the robust smells and flavors that we know wine to have. Another really important reason that you are swirling this wine is because you want to take a good look at it. You want to know what you're about to sniff and sip. So swirling it, kind of look around. Do you see any sediments in there that you don't think should belong? Is it kind of hazy or murky and unclear? If none of those things are present, it means it's probably good to go. Though, on a note, wine sediment's not impossible to find. It typically comes in older bottles that have been aged for a long time. And once you get down to the very bottom and you pour out that last glass, there's very possibly some wine sediment in there. Sediment's not bad for you, and you are fully capable of drinking it. Or you can simply use a sieve or avoid that very last gulp of gulp of wine to avoid some of the sediments. The last reason that we kind of swirl our wine is also to get a nice sense of the color of it. We want to look at the color and maybe see if it gives away anything about the wine that we might learn. And so this one, I'm holding up to a white piece of paper. I know it's a little hard to see from there, but if you can do it at home, it works very well. Holding a white piece of paper behind the glass gives you a very nice indication of what the color of the wine is. And you see, that's so important because it can kind of help lead us towards what kind of style of wine we're drinking. It can help give us an intuition of what we're going to be sipping. The beautiful, very pale color of this wine, almost translucent with just a hint of straw around the edges, kind of tells me that it's going to be a lighter wine. It probably isn't going to have lots of really robust and in-your-face flavors. And yeah, that's the notion I get from the color in this glass. Now, sometimes this is wrong. It's not 100% correct of a method. It's just a nice way to kind of get an intuition in what you think you're going to be drinking. So, now that we've looked at our wine and it looks like it's good to go, we're going to go into the next step, which is going to be to sniff. And so, to sniff, I like to give first a nice little whiff on top. See if there's anything that jumps right out of the glass at you. I'm getting some beautiful citrus right off the bat. And then you kind of get a little deeper. Take a nice long breath. Kind of see what you can smell. What do you smell in the wine? I get that beautiful note of citrus that just kind of jumps right out of the glass at me. It's kind of like a nice lemon drop and a little bit of lime in there. But I also get something a little bit deeper, a little bit more voluptuous, if you would. Maybe something a little like peaches or maybe nectarines. There's also this very subtle quality of almond, just a touch of nuttiness, almost a touch of bitter smell behind it. It's quite subtle, but if you practice really hard, you can get all sorts of smells out of wine. Another important reason that we are smelling this wine is another quality check. We looked at the glass and we went, it looks like a nice wine. But now when we smell it, there's two big smells we want to keep an eye out for, because they're known to be given off when a wine has gone bad. And those smells are vinegar and wet cardboard. So if you ever open up a glass and it smells either like it's fully reductive and it's turned to vinegar, or smells like a cardboard box you forgot in your garage for a couple of weeks, then there's most likely a fault in the wine, and that's most likely bad. However, this wine smells fresh and like it's good. So, now on to my favorite snooty step, the last and the most important, of course. We're going to sip the wine. Delicious. I get a lot of those different fruits that I smelt on the palate. Also in my mouth, I get a lot of them. That citrus is coming right forward. I got all that nice tasty lemon. And again, something a little deeper like peaches as well. And then I have this beautiful, beautiful after finish of almost like a stone, like a little bit of gravel or something like that. Something with just a touch of minerality. Did all the things that you smelt in the glass come across on the palate? Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Actually, a big part of how we taste comes from our nose. A lot of what we taste on our tongue and on our palate are making their way there through our noses. So it's really important to keep smelling and sipping your wine. And while you are sipping your wine, I'm going to give you just a little bit of a rundown on what a classic Pinot Grigio usually tastes like. So next time you're in store, when you pick up a Pinot Grigio, especially an Italian Pinot Grigio, for maybe a romantic night at home again, you kind of know what you're going to be expecting. And so the typical profile is dry. Pinot Grigios are definitely typically on the dry side. And of course, dry being not sweet. We never use the term not sweet in wine. Not never, never say never. We rarely use the term not sweet, we call it dry. Though here you can see that it's not bone dry. It's not really dry, sucking all the moisture out of your mouth. And the big reason for that is some of those stone fruits and some of those citrus flavors that come across on the palate give it just a little bit more fruitiness than full-on dryness. Next, you can see the body of the wine is quite on the light side, which is kind of what I thought was going to happen when I was looking at the color of this wine. Now, what body in wine can be kind of hard to explain because we aren't used to thinking about weight of our food. We think about texture all the time. Is it slimy? Is it chewy? There's lots of different textures we think about, but we rarely think about how heavy they are in our mouth. The best way that I kind of like to describe it is looking at skimmed milk versus whole milk, right? Skim milk is quite a light body. It's quite light and it's not a lot of presence in your mouth. It's a little more like drinking water, right? There's just not a lot of different bodies and textures going on. Whereas then when you think about, 2% or whole milk, you definitely think about a textural experience. It's more voluptuous in your mouth, it's more present, and it has a weight behind it. And that's kind of how I like to indicate what style of body a wine has, and the Pinot Grigios are certainly closer to the skimmed side. So it has a nice light body. But light bodies are great for being refreshing. Next is tannin. Now you see, this is very, very low in tannin. And the reason it's low in tannin is because it's a white wine. White wines typically don't have tannin. Again, never say never, sometimes they do on a rare occasion, but the majority of white wines will not have tannin to them. And that's because tannin comes from grape skins. Now again, tannin's a little hard one, hard of a experience to explain, but if you've ever had like black tea, and you're sipping on black tea, and your gums suck right up to your mouth, and you kind of feel like you need another drink of water to help bring your palate open again, that bitter, drying sensation is tannin. And white wines rarely have them. Again, because no skin contact. You see, when winemakers are making wine, as they do, what they do is they take the grapes and they squish them, and all the juices come out. And those juices are either left with the skins to kind of stew together for a while, and that's how red wine is made. All the pigments and tannins and structures go out of those skins into the wine. Whereas white wine, they squish those grapes and they get rid of the skins. There's no more skins involved. So you just have this nice light juice that's going to be fermented. And so again, no grape skins, no tannin. Next is acidity. Now, this one is the highest of all of them. This wine has a lot of acid behind it, but it's very important for this wine to have a lot of acid. We'll talk a little bit about why acid is important for food pairing in a little bit here, but it's also just really important to keep the wine energized and lively and refreshing and crisp. All of those adjectives come from the acid profile, right? There's a term in wine, and it's called flabby. Flabby is when wine doesn't have enough acid. It has lots of body and lots of alcohol and lots of texture and no acid, so it's just not as energized as the wine could be. And no one likes to be flabby, so it's always important to have beautiful acidity in wine, and Italian wines in particular are known for their acidity. Next, the very last one is all about alcohol content. Now this guy sits in most Pinot Grigios sit in the very average zone of 11.5 to 13.5% alcohol. That is where the bulk of wine sits. You can certainly find some that are lower alcohol, indicating that it's probably a little bit sweeter, and some that are a little bit higher alcohol, usually indicating that they're from a warmer climate. But again, most of the wines, probably about 60% of the wines on the market sit in that beautiful 11.5 to 13.5% alcohol. Beautiful. So moving along, while you guys just keep sipping on that beautiful Pinot Grigio, we're going to talk a little bit about the producer, about Santa Margherita. This is who lives in Italy and who makes the wine. Now, it is the Marzotto family who founded Santa Margherita in 1935. Now, that seems like a long time ago, but in the world of wine, especially in Italy, 1939 is not that old. It's less than 100 years old. And Italy's been making wine since the Romans' time. So there's quite a rich history in Italy. And although this is a young winery, they use a lot of very traditional styles and methods, which kind of help bring the roots, all those deep roots of Italian winemaking, into this more modern style of wine. Something kind of fun here, this right here is the ancestral home of the Marzotto family, which you can kind of see really closely mimics that beautiful label that they have. And I think that's adorable, the fact that they brought in their history into their winemaking. Now, this house has actually been around longer than the winery has. And then on the very corner here, you can see this is actually an aerial view of that beautiful ancestral house, surrounded by just breathtaking hills and all these beautiful vineyards. I can imagine that it's a beautiful place to sit down and sip some wine at, looking out over those hills. And then actually on the upper left-hand corner, is a very modern looking building. And that is actually the new winery. So this is where they make the wine for Santa Margherita, right? This is where they pick the grapes, the vineyards, and this is where they make the wine in the winery. Now, yes, this winery is quite a bit newer. It's actually been named the Villa Nova, which in Latin loosely translates to the new house, which is kind of explanatory for itself. Now, I put up a picture of this because I think it's so cool that Santa Margherita boasts having no carbon emissions out of their new winery, which is amazing. Making wine is huge in producing carbon. All sorts of carbon footprints all over the place. The fact that actually fermenting wine makes carbon dioxide is just a start, not to mention the machinery, the bottling, all of these things that are integrated and do produce a lot of carbon. But Santa Margherita has gone above and beyond and made something that is good for our environment and makes amazing wine. Now, I'm going to ask you to take a moment and be a little imaginative with me. Picture yourself walking through Venice, which is right in the very northern top of Italy, of course. We'll get a little more into maps a little bit in the later sections of this wine tasting. For now, just picture Venice. I'm sure we all can. Those beautiful water-filled canals, the gentlemen singing on the gondolas as they float past. Now just imagine that you've sat yourself down at this beautiful little bistro, side street bistro, little hole in the wall that's just beautiful, and you've bought in yourself a $2 bottle of wine, and it's probably a Pinot Grigio if it's white, especially from this region. Veneto, which is the province that Venice is in, is so well known for its crisp white wines, majoritively from Pinot Grigio. Anyways, so now that we have the setting, beautiful little Italian restaurant, ordered a glass of wine, now comes the hard part. What do you eat with it? Because, when in Venice, you have to eat some beautiful Italian food, but it can be really difficult to understand what kind of food is gonna pair best with your wine. And so we're gonna talk just a little bit about some of the tasting profiles and some of the qualities in wine and food that work well together. So we're gonna start off with two different kinds of wine and food pairing, and that is either congruent or complementary. Congruent wine pairing, wine and food pairings, are when you take foods and wines with similar characteristics and pair them together so that they can both benefit from having these shared qualities. A really great example is Pinot Grigio's high crisp acid and a tomato's high crisp acid, right? This is actually a big reason a lot of Italian wine likes to have acid profile in it. It's because acid's really important for food pairings, and there's a lot of tomatoes in Italy, a lot of tomatoes. And so it's just a beautiful natural pairing. This crisp tomato, this crisp wine, perfect, match made in heaven, ultimately refreshing. And of course, tomatoes are quite a broad topic, but there's lots of things you can have. Some nice antipastas, all those beautiful cold pastas to start that have tomatoes and chives and olives in them, all fantastic for Pinot Grigio. Getting into the main courses, you can be looking for something like a nice tomato-based pasta sauce. I would lean away from very heavy meats, like beef, but any kind of chicken and seafood put together with a tomato sauce is absolutely phenomenal. A beautiful pairing, and the two acid profiles will help meld together and highlight the other food qualities. So now that we've learned about the congruent, the complementary, which is kind of the opposite. Complementary is indicating that you're taking a wine and a food with kind of opposite profiles and pairing them together so they counteract and counterbalance each other. So my favorite example of this is something creamy. Again, there's a lot of things to highlight in wine, but especially in Pinot Grigio, you're highlighting the acid and the citrus structure. And so if you want that acid and citrus to cut through something, it'll cut through fat and creaminess in a cinch. So picture a nice heavy mac and cheese. Not a totally traditional Italian pairing, but a nice heavy cheesy white cream sauce in this mac and cheese. A Pinot Grigio is going to do amazing to cut through all those fats, all those different components, and leave this somewhat heavy savory dish as a very vibrant dish. And when you make a really nice food pairing with your wine, it's amazing because you just keep on eating and keep on drinking and keep on eating and keep on drinking. And that's practically the Italian way of life. So it's very nice. One more I did want to add, because it's Valentine's Day, I always like to mention a little bit about chocolate and desserts and the sweeter side of life. Desserts are my favorite part of a meal, so. Chocolate is actually quite a difficult pairing for Pinot Grigio. Pinot Grigio does not have the body and the structure to stand up to a dark chocolate, but milk chocolate's sweetness counteracts badly with Pinot Grigio's crisp acid profile. So I kind of thought of a happy medium, and that is white chocolate. I know it's sweet, but now picture white chocolate and nuts. Think about all of your almonds and walnuts and all those good guys dipped in white chocolate. You get that nice creamy texture of the white chocolate, and then a little bit more of the bitter nuttiness behind it as well. And that nuttiness pairs well with the sometimes, bitter, almost almond-esque flavors of Pinot Grigio. And then that creaminess of the white chocolate benefits from being cut by that crisp acid in the wine. Another dessert that I think would be phenomenal with Pinot Grigio is creme brulee. Again, it's in the name, cream. Anytime you get that nice creamy texture, having a wine that's lively and crisp and full of acid just helps brighten everything up and keeps the dish and your palate refreshed. So, we've learned everything we can know now about this Pinot Grigio, and I'm going to let you go for now. I do believe there's a band waiting for you, but we'll see each other again very soon.
Thank you, Katherine. That white wine was delicious and refreshing. I'm really excited to try it with a nice heavy mac and cheese one day soon. And in the meantime, the cheese in this charcuterie box goes with it really nicely. You're right. Well, I know that you'll want to sit back and enjoy the rest of your white wine now, so I will throw it back over to the Redline Trio for some more great music. Thank you, Redline Trio. Just a reminder to go back and check on your bids in the online auction. Trust me, you do not want to lose out on those items. They could make a really great gift for your Valentine. It's time to try some red wine now. Katherine, I'll pass it back to you.
Hello, and welcome back. That was a great break. So romantic. I truly wish I was that talented with instruments. But moving along, we're going to get right back into our beautiful wine tasting of romantic Italy. And I'm going to be asking you to open up your second bottle of wine, which is going to be the Folinari Valpolicella. So while you're opening that up, we want to be thinking about the 3 important steps that we're going to be doing next. If you recall, that's going to be to swirl, to sniff, and then to sip. So let's get right on into it. We had practice in the last round. We should be experts at it by now. And we're going to open up our glass here, and we're going to start with the swirl. I don't see any sediment, nor do I see any haziness. The wine looks fairly dark originally in the glass, but when I get my white piece of paper, I can see that it's fairly translucent. It's a beautiful, beautiful cherry color, but it's definitely not opaque, which leads me to believe that it'll probably have a little bit of a lighter style behind it. So now that we've determined that it looks good, let's give it a little smell. Oh my. Oh, that red fruit bouquet is beautiful. All sorts of red fruit coming out of there. I got like a little bit of cherry and a little bit of raspberry. I also got black pepper, which it's a note I'm fairly familiar with. I don't enjoy cooking with black pepper, and so I always find that when I'm smelling wine, it pops out right away. And although I don't like to cook with it, I do enjoy it in my wine, because it adds just a little layer of complexity that I really enjoy. There's a little touch of something sweeter too, something like a nice baking spice, maybe some cloves or cinnamon in there. And I definitely don't have any faults on the nose. There's no vinegar or wet cardboard. And so I think we're safe to move on to the last step, which is going to be to sip. That's tasty, but it's zippier than I thought it was going to be. All that really nice luscious fruit on the nose came across just a little more tart on the palate, but it's very refreshing. It's quite invigorating. Going back for a second sip. Yeah, and beneath that kind of tart cherry, there's still that baking spice and maybe a little bit of chocolate as well in there. So now, if you didn't get those notes, just keep trying. I'm going to let you keep sipping on your wine while I talk a little bit about what Valpolicella usually tastes like. We see here that it is dry, just like the Pinot Grigio. Maybe not bone dry. Again, some of that red fruit on the palate helps make it just a touch juicier. And then we do see that it has a little bit more body. It has a medium body behind it. And I would usually kind of say that's because of the tannins. Tannin will always add just a little more structure in the body and a little more weight in your mouth. We're certainly not all the way at whole milk, but closer to a 1 or 2%. And then, of course, talking of the tannins, we do have tannin structure in here. Just a little bit, though, just a touch. This wine didn't spend very long with its skins in contact, so it didn't extract too much color or too much tannin. And we could see that in the glass when it wasn't a very, very deep color, just kind of a light translucent. That helps indicate that it didn't spend a lot of time on the skins. And so the tannin follows suit with it. And then we see super high acidity, all the way to the maximum acidity. And I think that's important, because as we have gotten to a little more medium body and a little bit of tannin, we need to use that acidity to counteract it so that our wine doesn't become flat and boring. And then it does fall into that very beautiful, average alcohol range, that 11.5 to 13.5% alcohol. So keep on sipping your wine, and we're going to talk a little bit about where both Folinari and Santa Margherita come from, which is of course from Italy, but they both actually come out of the northern regions of Italy. There's a lot of different wine regions in Italy. Every single one of these areas has more sub-regions of wine in them. And we could be here all day and we still wouldn't get to talk about all of them. So I focused on 2 that are more common to see out of Italy and that are much more people-friendly. So both of these wines are great options for sharing with others around you because they're nice and they're approachable. So the first region is Alto Adige. It's the most northern region of Italy, as we can see here, and it does share a significant amount of its border with Austria. And it also has quite a bit of the Dolomite Mountains in there, which is a subsection of the Alps that are known for some pretty breathtaking views. We're going to see a little bit more of those in just a moment. Next one we have is Veneto. And Veneto is actually where you would find Venice. In that nice little horseshoe area, a little bit into the water, is where the city of Venice is. But once you go inland, off the coast a touch, those valleys are full of all sorts of wine. And there's actually quite a few different sub-regions within Veneto. So regions that are a little bit smaller and a little bit more specialized than the broad region of Veneto. Of course, the most important little sub-region in there, for us today at least, is Valpolicella. Though there is also things like Orvieto and Bardolino and Vallobiadene. So even that small little area has lots and lots of different very specialized wine coming out of there. We're going to take a little bit of a closer look at these regions. The very first one, again, is going to be the Alto Adige. And as I talked about, those beautiful Dolomite Mountains, right here, you can see how they go from beautiful, rocky, and then quickly sweep all the way into these big, luscious valleys. And that very drastic change in geography really helps the grapes of the region create unique profiles, and it really helps them actually gain acid structure. That's just due to the extreme change in altitude and geography. So I have 2 snapshots of the kind of different vineyards you do find in this region. One of them is very steep vineyards. These vineyards are on terraces and they're layered so that they can go up the mountainside. Wineries found on this region are, in this area at least, are a little more premium because it takes a lot of work to harvest grapes like that. You can't get any machines up there, so all of those grapes are hand-picked, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of people to pick grapes by hand. And then you see with the luscious valleys that come very quickly out of these mountains and spread wide open. And there's tons of wine grown in these valleys, and it's also where places like Santa Margherita get their grapes from, because it's a little easier to cultivate, it's a little easier to harvest, and that makes it easier to make enough wine to send to the international market. Something also kind of fun about this region is the name. Alto Adige has meaning. You see, alto means high, of course, and Adige is actually the name of the river, the very large river that flows out of these Dolomite Mountains and south into the rest of Italy. And so it's literally just kind of stating what the geography is like. It's a high and there's a river. So put 2 and 2 together and it's pretty simple. We're going to go and take a little bit more of a peek at Veneto here. And here I have a beautiful example of the coastal regions where they do still grow some grapes. Definitely a little more of the white style grapes and a little more of the bulk production, because being this close to the ocean has very constant temperatures and it's just a little easier to cultivate mass amounts of grapes. We also take a nice peek at these rolling valleys. This is a little more of what Valpolicella will look like. Not so coastal, it's definitely more inland. And it's got some nice rolling hills and beautiful valleys that are full with lots and lots and lots of grapes. Grapes that look just like this. You see, this is the grape that goes into Valpolicella. Now, it's hard sometimes. In Italy, they don't always tell you what's inside the wine. They don't tell you what grape is in here. Santa Margherita was very kind and is made for the international market, so they do tell you it's Pinot Grigio, but Folinari told you it's Valpolicella. And Valpolicella is a place, it's not a grape. The grape that they do use is called Corvina. And so you won't see Corvina on a label anywhere else. Other places don't grow Corvina. It is the specialized grape of this sub-region within Veneto. So Valpolicella is always Corvina, and it's not going to come from anywhere else. It's a little complex, this region, because while it tells you where it's from, they do create several different styles. And so on the labels, sometimes you will see Ripasso or Amarone, both coming out of the same region of Valpolicella. And those wines are just a little bit more of an intense and robust style of the Corvina grape. We're not going to get too far into it because it starts getting very technical, very fast in Italian winemaking. But all you really need to know is that the straight Valpolicella is the most approachable and light in style. Ripasso is the medium, where it's getting a little heavier and a little more decadent. And Amarone is kind of the king. It takes the most time, it takes the most effort, and it certainly costs the most. But it's also kind of the most layered, structured, and detailed wine from the region. Wonderful. It looks like we're getting pretty close to the end here. I'm so sad to see you go. But before you do, I wanted to mention just a little bit about food again. We spent quite a bit of time talking about what food goes with Pinot Grigio, but this time it's a little bit simpler because truthfully, they're very similar. Both of these wines' main profile is that big, bold acid structure. And so again, you want to be pairing the youngest style of Valpolicella with tomato bases, so anything like lasagna and any kind of pasta dish with those nice tomatoes, some nice fresh bruschetta, anything like that. And then it will also benefit very well from creamier dishes. Again, it has that beautiful acid that's going to cut right through the cream and keep all those heavy, heavy dishes refreshing and just so delicious. The biggest difference, I would say, comes in at dessert, because it's pretty well known that red wine goes amazing with chocolate. And that's because the red fruits in the wine really lend themselves to being a very good pair to the chocolate. And so while I mentioned maybe some white chocolate with nuts for the Pinot Grigio, if it's chocolate, it will go with Valpolicella. Dark chocolate, you're certainly still going to have a little bit of a bitter profile. That'll make the wine just a touch bitter as well. But if you are a fan of dark chocolate, you're probably not against just a little bit of bitterness. So yeah, pull out some milk chocolate with nuts in it. It's going to be a beautiful pairing for the Valpolicella. And yeah, last, I'm just going to mention this beautiful picture in the background. This is the city of Verona. Now, Verona is the main city found within Valpolicella, so it's a great place to visit with beautiful, beautiful wine. And we kind of meet an old friend here, because that's the Adige River that flows right through the middle of the town. And it just kind of shows how this river does start at the very, very top, and it works its way all the way through that upper region into Veneto, into Valpolicella, and then continues right on south into Italy. Awesome. We have come to the end now. I'm so sad to see you go, but I'm excited to see you again next time. Have a wonderful night. Goodbye.
Whoops. You got me in my costume change. I took her advice and cuddled up in my PJs. I have to say, if 2020 taught me anything, it's that red wine is most enjoyable while wearing flannels on the couch and red lipstick, apparently. Thank you so much, Katherine. These wines are delicious, and your facts and guidance through the tasting was fantastic. I learned so much that I didn't know. Final reminder that the online auction will be closing during the next music set, so be sure to go back and bid on your items. Now it's time to sit back and enjoy your red wine and some food and some more music one more time.
Thanks again for having us. It's been our pleasure to play for you. We are the Redline Trio. Once again, Jeff Salim on the drums, Steve Shepard on the bass. My name is Mark DeYoung. This is a tune of mine called The Late Shift.
Thank you.
a tune now that was written by our bassist. This is a tune called No Limes for Jeffrey.
Thank you, Redline Trio, for the wonderful music tonight. I know I've missed getting to go out and listen to live music, so that was such a treat. Thank you to Katherine and Co-op Wine and Spirits for the wine and for the amazing tasting experience. I know I learned a lot and will definitely be picking up these wines again. A big thank you as well to YYC Food Trucks and Boxed YEG for these awesome charcuterie boxes. They were delicious. Now, don't forget to go back and see what items you've won in the auction. If you did win any of your items, you should also receive an email shortly with instructions. Thank you to our sponsor, Regal Ideas, for the support for this new event. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for your ticket purchase and for your donations. We get to continue funding critical research and supporting those living with these diseases only because of your generosity and support. One day together, we will find a cure for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Until then, happy Valentine's Day, everybody.